Hi, I'm Odd Hour Mukhtar, and today we're gonna do something a little bit different for the podcast, which I might call Pod Hour because apparently that's just a better name. Um, I wanted to talk about the PS5 versus the Series X. I know it's a little bit late. The consoles have been out for getting close to 2 weeks now. I feel like I want my thoughts out there. I feel like it's important that I express, as someone who was super lucky and got both consoles on launch day. Like I got the pre-orders is what I mean, and they got delivered on launch day. I think it's important to get my thoughts on there because I'm not like biased, right? I don't really prefer one over the other. I've been playing one more than the other just for like a very specific reason, which we will get into. But I think it's important as someone who is fortunate enough to get both, and I'm not sponsored by anybody. I feel like it's important to get like my thoughts out there. So we're going to do just that today. Usually I have someone to bounce ideas off of and have a conversation with, but it's just going to be me, and I hope you enjoy it. With that being said, let's get right into it now. A good place to start would be Xbox One versus PS4, right? The Xbox One, you can look at it through their entire life cycles if you want. If you look at it from the entire life cycle, it looks like PlayStation 1 for a number of reasons. But Xbox One has done like this great thing about adding backwards compatibility, right? Like being like straight up, no, it's only going to be Xbox One games, and then slowly phasing in Xbox 360 games, and then phasing in Xbox original games. That's impressive. That is a really good level of like backwards compatibility. Whereas PlayStation is kind of like, no, right? PS4 at least was like, we're not doing like PS3, we're not doing PS2, which kind of sucks, right? The original PS3 model had backwards compatibility, but then PS4 was just like, nah, you gotta, if you want all those old games, get PlayStation Now. And I don't even know what the library is on PlayStation Now. I didn't subscribe to it. I'm sure it's great, don't get me wrong, but you know, my PS2 still works. I miss PS3. I was a 360 boy, and for a long time I was an Xbox fan, but once a few games started coming out for the PS4, I was like, I need to get my hands on a PS4. Specifically, Marvel Spider-Man. I thought the Insane trilogy, like the Crash Bandicoot remakes, were going to stay PS4 exclusives. And the show. I'm a huge baseball fan, and I don't really talk about that much. But, right, all that being said, the point of what we're going to discuss is the PS5 versus the Series X. That's where we are today. Now, going just for a little bit more, going back to the Xbox One versus the PS4, I say this number a lot. If you're familiar with my stuff, you've almost definitely heard me say this before. The PS4 has outsold the Xbox One phenomenally, like on like a factor of 2.5. One of the last few metrics I saw was that, I'm rounding here, let's say it was around 40 something for the Series X and over 100 something million units, 40 million units for the Xbox One versus 100 million for the PS4. That is literally a factor of 2.5. If you believe in the console wars, then like PlayStation 4 dominated the Xbox One. Like Sony beat Microsoft in the console wars. If you actually believe that nonsense, I don't. I think the console wars are just nonsense. I think what it boils down to is exclusives, right? That's just how you market something. Because here's another good point, right? The Series X had no real exclusives at launch, which is kind of a big deal, whereas the PS5 had one like actual exclusive that wasn't also on PS4 in Demon Souls, like the remake, which is impressive. I'm not like a big fan of the Souls. I haven't actually played any Souls game. I played a little bit of Bloodborne, but that's, you know, it looks great, and for what it is, I'm sure it's great. But this is what it boils down to. I did not get any games for the Series X at launch, whereas I 100% had Miles Morales and Black Ops Cold War reserved for the PS5. I knew I wanted it for the PS5. And to some extent, I regret that. I regret getting Cold War for the PS5 because I can't really get used to those haptic triggers. They're a phenomenal addition to Miles Morales. I love them. But as someone who uses like a semi-automatic a lot, I find myself like kind of struggling to get through the trigger more. I have a pretty good trigger finger, but that's like a controller thing, right? I love both games. I love Cold War and I love Miles Morales very, very much. I don't know if the Series X right now is worth getting, just because it doesn't have any like real exclusives, right? It's what the Series X has basically become is a new Xbox One, right? Like now I have no reason to use my Xbox One. It has the same user interface, the same library, except now a couple of games have been updated, right? The one thing that saves the Series X now is I caved and I was like, I'm gonna get Game Pass just because, right? I did that thing where you get like 3 months worth of gold and then you add Game Pass. So I have it, not 3 months, 3 years. 3 years worth of Xbox Gold. And then I got Game Pass. I don't know what that does. I'm sure I'm getting charged. I haven't looked at my bank statement specifically for Microsoft. But that really saves the console. Because what that did was I had such a limited amount of space on my Xbox One. I had an extra hard drive. And then when I hooked up the Series X and I was like, wow, there really aren't any new games for it. I went through Game Pass and there were a ton of games to install. A ton. So many games. Really, like, good games too. Very recently, Halo got a graphical upgrade, right? Gears 5 got a graphical upgrade. And Fortnite got a graphical upgrade. That's exclusively on the Xbox, right? Comparison videos of games that run on PS5 that also run on PS4, you'll see that there's somewhat of a difference, right? A lot of people make the argument that 4K versus 1080p 60 doesn't really make that much of a difference. And realistically, to our eyes, it doesn't, right? Our eyes don't really... I think our eyes run at like 25 frames per second or 24, maybe 26. Something around that range, whereas 30 FPS can look really smooth and 60 FPS looks ridiculously smooth. But beyond that, listen, I don't know. Maybe my eyes are shot. I don't really know. But, right, consoles versus each other. I'm not going to hit you with a preference. I'm just going to state facts, right? I'm just going to state things about each console that are important to acknowledge. And I've said this already about the Series X, where it's just like it's the Xbox One 2. There's nothing about it that brings me into it, right? There's no exclusives, right? And that's what sells consoles. Because, like, specs-wise, if you're talking like straight up hardware, the Series X beats the PS5. It has like a greater output and a bunch of other stuff. But the issue is that Sony has incredible exclusives. And that's what people lean into. Also, like, I don't know, everybody and their mother got a PlayStation for some reason. A lot of my friends went from Xbox 360 to PlayStation 4, and I didn't get that. And then once I got it, I was like, oh yeah, no, this makes sense. Credit where credit's due. I enjoy the PS5 and I enjoy the PS4. I also enjoy the Xbox One and the Series X, but only because of backwards compatibility, which is another issue. Thank goodness the PS5 has PS4 backwards compatibility. I'm saying the word too much. I'm starting to forget how to English. Thank goodness the PS5 has that little bit, to the fact that I don't have to keep my PS4 around, right? Like, I'm not going to throw out my PlayStation 4. Of course I'm not going to throw out my PlayStation 4. That would be dumb. Whether I resell it or I give it to Mod, if you guys know who Mod is, there's no point in getting rid of it. The point is that I don't have to get rid of the games, right? I don't have to give games to it too. I have games that I can install. I got the disc tray. This is also a big thing I'm going to talk about. Disc versus discless. Okay? Discless, whatever, however you want to pronounce it. Disc versus no disc. I don't understand why people prefer no disc. And the reason for that is really, really simple. If something goes wrong with your account, where all your digital games, whether you're being toxic and you get suspended, or your account gets deleted, or any other level of nonsense, your account gets hacked and they shut you out, whatever the reason is, if you lose your account, there goes your entire digital library, right? As someone who gets physical games, there are digital games that I still have, like, I'm at risk of losing. Because they'll just, like, if I lose my account, one day I get hacked, my password gets, like, someone hacks my account, deletes my account, whatever the reason. When it comes to purely digital things, like, people get hacked all the time. So you are very deeply at risk of losing things. To further that point, I wanted to change my account name, my PSN name on PlayStation, right? I wanted to go from what it is now, which is Mukidatar. I wanted to change it to Odd Hour or Odd Hour NYC, fit the brand, right? And I had everything set up for it. And as soon as I'm about to hit the button, I see that when it says you're about to change your name on the PlayStation, you might lose some licenses to the games that you own digitally. Now, why? Why should you have to lose that for changing your name? It's not like, they didn't say all games, they said some games. The fact that it's any games is bonkers. It's absolutely crazy. That makes absolutely no sense. In that regard, Microsoft is beating Sony, just in changing your username. I changed my name from Mukidatar to Odd Hour NYC on Xbox. No issues. All my digital games are still there and they belong to me. Versus if I had to make a second account and name it Odd Hour NYC. If I changed it from Mukidatar to Odd Hour NYC, I might have lost a ton of digital games, right? The freedom that comes with having a console that has a disc tray, whether or not you actually even use it, right? The benefits severely outweigh the downsides. What, the extra $100 that you're going to spend on the PS5 with a disc tray? $200, sure, you could make that argument for the Xbox. But if you're just getting into Xbox for the first time, and it has all this backwards compatibility, most of the time sales will be on physical versions of games. Digital sales happen all the time too, don't get me wrong, but you want to sell in, like, physical games have much more of a market. The fact that GameStop still exists, and, well, they're dying because of it, but realistically that's why they're still around, is because of the whole trade-in bonuses and all that other stuff, right? The fact that I can go to GameStop and pick up a bunch of games, like, that's what makes it good. Instead of, like, okay, here's a good example. Right now, it is Black Friday week. There are a number of Nintendo games, right? Let's bring Nintendo into the mix just a little. There are a number of Nintendo games that are on sale physically, right? That, like, off the top of my head, I can think of Fire Emblem Three Houses and Mario Tennis Aces. Digitally, right now, those games are $60. But physically, they're $30 because they just want to move that. Digital is never going to run out. Okay, the limited edition or the limited availability of physical things is what sells them most of the time, right? It's the novelty of owning it. So no, I do not understand the notion behind not getting a what do you call it? A disc tray, a console with a disc tray. Yeah, that's just one thing, right? That's like huge personal preference. If you don't have the space to hold your games and all that stuff, I can't hold digital against you. I just don't understand why you're choosing to limit yourself. Because like games don't really get discounted that much digitally. You can walk into GameStop and get, like, God knows how many pre-owned games, especially if it's $15 a year. $15 a year to get like a more significant portion of pre-owned games at like a cheaper price. That's not that much money. You spend, I get Xbox Gold, right, and Game Pass, right? I get PlayStation Plus, and I get Nintendo Switch Online. That's $140 annually. Okay, that's how much you're spending to play online. Another $15 to help you get physical games in terms of an annual thing is not that big a deal. That's something I recommend too. Okay, I'm going on rants, and I hope you like it, but I'm going to go. I have things written down, and I'm not sticking to it. I'm just kind of going, like, off. Let's see. Controller-wise, this is a good point. The PS5 controller is different. That doesn't make it inherently good or bad. It's just new. The haptic triggers are really, really fun. Not a big fan of them on, what do you call it? on Call of Duty, just because like using a shotgun, I find myself having to like kind of slam my finger down to get the semi-automatic function out of it. Whereas before it was pretty like, it was like here, right? The controllers are right next to me. I'll just show you. Basically, when you're shooting, for those of you who don't know, and this is mostly for visual people right now, right? People who are watching on YouTube as opposed to listening to the podcast. There's like a resistance right about here, about maybe, let's call it 15% of the way through pushing the trigger down. When you're playing Call of Duty, that's where the gun trigger is, right? When you squeeze past that, that's when the gun starts shooting, to give you like a visual sense of it. Whereas with the Xbox, it's the same trigger, you know, right? And in that level of comfortability, sure, it would be preferred. My issue with the Xbox controller is they added a new button and they changed up the D-pad, right? That's not that solid, right? If you go back even to the Xbox 360 controllers, there hasn't been much change, right? They changed the shape of them. I prefer the shape of the 360 controller. I think it looks nice. This is the first time Sony's really drastically changed their controller. You could argue that the touchpad on the PS4 is like a big deal, but when you get right down to it, it's still basically the same thing. All controllers are basically the same. Nintendo's the only company out there that really changes their controllers from console to console. I'm not a big fan of the PS5's design. I love the black and white aesthetic when it comes to controllers. I have every console that I own, I have a black and white variant. I can say with confidence, at least modern consoles, I have a black and white variant. But I feel like the PlayStation button itself could have gotten a little spice. Put the original colors there, or make it clear like the buttons are. Could have did better there. Xbox controller stayed basically the same. At least now they launched with a controller that has like a headphone jack. That's important for a number of reasons, because it didn't for a while. You had to use the one that came with the console. It didn't, like a controller, like, this is the first time that the consoles have launched without like a really dinky version of a headset to use for chat. The PS5 controller has a mic built in, which is a good and a bad thing. I will find myself, muttering under my breath like, come on, I killed that dude. And then realizing that the game can hear me, and that's kind of embarrassing. I like the inclusivity of having a mic in the controller. I don't like that the default is unmuted, right? But at least you don't need a headset, right? Xbox technically should have launched, like the Series X should have came with a headset that you can use, even if it's a dinky little one. But I think the reality of the situation is, and Microsoft knows this, I think the reality of the situation is you're probably not going to get a Series X if you don't already have an Xbox One. That's kind of a big deal. That means you're not really bringing in new people. What you're bringing in is you're just trying to hold on to your already established consumer base. Whereas the PS5 can still bring in people. You don't inherently need a PS4 to own a PS5. Whereas you need to have it would be better. Let's say this is your first console purchase. This is an interesting point. If this is your first console purchase, like you've never gotten an Xbox or a PlayStation, I think the PS5 is better, because assuming you get the console and you get PlayStation Plus, you have 20 games, right? They include 20 games with PlayStation Plus, and every single one of those games is phenomenal. Like, I remember looking through it and being like, there isn't a single bad game here. God of War is in there. Just God of War alone is enough to make that thing sold. And then you have stuff like, I think Persona 5 is in there. I'm pretty sure the Crash Bandicoot remake is in there. Again, that's just 3 out of 17, and that should be more than enough to convince you that the PS5 is better at launch. Versus the Xbox, where you get... let's say you never had a console, you get it, you sign up for Gold, and you get the 2 free games a month. I do got to talk down on Xbox a little bit. Those games aren't always hits, right? Like, I don't know. The one that comes to mind right now is Vampire, which is Vampyr. I never heard of it. Wasn't super interested in it, but I added it to my library because it was free. Right? You spend. Let's say you spend get a month's worth of PlayStation Plus, right? You get access to all those games. That's phenomenal. You don't even need to spend the $60 a year for it. You should, because you are. I would assume you would want to play online. But let's even assume that you're just playing by yourself. There are still great single player games in that collection. In that regard, Sony did great, right? But that just further strengthens my point of, like, the Series X is dependent on people who already own an Xbox One. And to further that point, you can use your Xbox One controllers on the Series X. So technically, I have 5 controllers for the Series X because I already had 4 for the Xbox One for couch co-op games. I had 4 controllers for the PS4, but I can't use them on my PS5. They are not compatible. You can't use PS4 controllers on a PS5, but you can use Xbox One controllers on a Series X. Further solidifying that point of, like, well, if you have a One, the Series X is the next step. It's closer to a part 2 than a new console right now. Whereas the PS5 kind of feels like the next step. Just in terms of like the air surrounding it, right? Not in actuality, because the last gen and current gen, right? The PS4 and the Xbox One are now last gen. They're intertwined. There's only one game that is exclusive on any of the new consoles right now, and that's Demon's Souls. That's the only exclusive out right now. There are more coming out, of course, right? It's a new console. Companies will now shift to making games on those new consoles. But for the time being, there's only one. Like I said, I have Miles Morales on my PlayStation 5. Phenomenal game, right? That's just good, period, right? Again, when it comes to exclusivity for PlayStation, I love Halo. I do. I love Gears of War. They're both like games that I've played a lot in my lifetime and adore. I adore the franchises. But when you put those against, like, how absolutely great Marvel Spider-Man was, God of War, Days Gone, the show, like, again, I hate to bring baseball into it, talking specifically about gaming, but the show, right now it's starting to shift to other consoles. They're going to start making it available on Xbox and PC is what they made a statement. I don't know when, but eventually it's going to get there. If it's a battle of exclusives, Sony wins. And I don't know how Microsoft messed this up. I think in a way Microsoft knows that they're like losing this quote-unquote console war, and I think this is like their last kind of hoorah to get out. Halo Infinite getting pushed back is like awful. Like that is kind of a big deal, because I was looking forward to playing it at launch, as I'm sure any other Halo fan out there listening right now was looking forward to it. I don't know. Let's talk about pre-orders for a second. God. If you go... the PlayStation 5 pre-orders... Okay, saying that the PlayStation 5 pre-orders were a nightmare would be the most drastic understatement of 2020. What a mess. What an absolute mess. They had that whole thing out, like that whole hour-long stream of look what's coming. They're the same stream where they confirmed God of War Ragnarok and all those other games, right? Like the Five Nights at Freddy's game and what do you call it, Time Loop and all that stuff. And then they're like, yeah, no, pre-orders will come up soon. And then later in the day, they were up at certain retailers. I tried to get one at GameStop the same day. I know a friend of mine who lived in Queens went to GameStop, took a car service, and got a pre-order. And they got it. My GameStop wasn't having pre-orders. How did that happen? Who dropped the ball at Sony that hard? Okay? Because the weeks that followed were just constantly waiting and hoping that some retailer would have availability and that you would be lucky enough to grab one. Right? That's just PlayStation 5. Xbox did it much better. They handled pre-orders. You couldn't have done it better. They said it's going to be this day. It is going to be, what was it, September 22nd? Right? Maybe even, it was whatever day it was. October 12th. I don't remember. Let's say for argument's sake it was October 12th. It's going to be this day. This is the only time pre-orders are going to be available. Good luck. This time across the board, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon West Coast Pacific time. Good luck. Super limited, sure. I managed to get one, right? I went to my GameStop and they said they only had three Xboxes, 3 Series X's to pre-order. What, 1 physical, 2 digital, right? 1 with the disc tray and 2 Series S, digital exclusive. How did that happen? The only way it could have happened is if they had more and they probably gave it to their employees. I'm never going to complain about that. If you have the means to get your hands on something because you know someone or you work at the place where you're getting it, take that opportunity. Take the opportunities that life gives you. I will never get mad at someone who works at GameStop getting themselves a console before it being sold out. You can't. They were lucky enough to get that job. They landed that job. They held that job. And the perks that come with that job are great, especially if you're a gamer. Okay? 3 is still a little bit low. But once they told us that, like, there were people online in front of me that were arguing with a person. Like, the really nice guy who works at the shop, works at the GameStop by my house. Super chill. They were yelling at him, why did you wait so long to tell us this and that? And I was like, there's no point in waiting here anymore. It was like 3 guys around me. I was like, you gentlemen have a wonderful day. I'm going to try my luck at home. I walked by, I tipped my hat at the guy who works there, right? I said, see you later, take care. Went home, and I got super late. Now, this is where Twitter becomes like kind of a big deal. Twitter's amazing. Twitter's an amazing place. I started following a deals Twitter. If you're familiar with Wario64, they tweet out like when links go live and all that other stuff. Phenomenal. Big shout out to Wario64. If you know Wario64 in person, or you know someone who knows them, you tell them that I love them so much. Amazing. The reason I got an Xbox Series X was because I was sitting at home waiting for things to go live, right? Just messing around, waiting on sites. I got the tweet notification, right? Notifications on, that the Series X was available at Amazon. In less than a minute, it was in my cart, and I ordered it. I want to say maybe 30 seconds. I read it, went to Amazon, got it. That's the level of quickness I needed to get a Series X. And thankfully, it was one of the earlier orders, because it wasn't the ones that got delayed, because some people who ordered on Amazon got them delayed. I got mine launch day. Super excited. It was a little bit of a journey, because UPS kind of screwed it up by putting it under my sister's name instead of mine. But still, I got it. Right? Unbox it. If you're listening right now and you want to see the unboxing, you should go check it out. I have unboxing for the PS5 and the Series X, and they're both very fun. I worked very hard, and I hope you enjoy it. Whew. Where was I? Right. Still talking about pre-orders. How did Sony drop the ball that hard? They had all the hype going for them, and just to screw it up because they didn't have any sort of structure regarding pre-orders. They were just kind of like, yeah, here's how many you have. Have fun. Enjoy yourself, you know? That's not how you should release something, right? Especially given the current global climate where we're in like the midst of a pandemic. And like gaming, like the numbers of gaming sales and stuff like that, right? The number of sales and gaming have gone up exponentially, right? Like, remember, don't forget during the pandemic back in like April and May, you couldn't get a Switch. If I wanted to go get a Switch, I couldn't. They were sold out. Everybody and their mother was getting a Switch. And why would that stop? Why would that stop during a pandemic where everybody was home? Whether you're working home remotely or you're, what do you call it? You lost your job and you had a little bit of money to burn, you moved back to your parents' house. Gaming was a great way. a great way to pass the time, be happy about life, have something to look forward to, experience new stories, interactive stories. The gaming is an amazing form of media. Now, all that build up towards the PS5 to drop the ball that hard, drop the ball hard enough that it shatters when it comes to pre-orders is ridiculous. To that point, it is still really hard to get. It's been what? Today is, I'm recording this on November 22nd. It has been 9 days, right? It came out the 13th, or maybe it came out the 12th. Hold on. Where's my calendar? It came out the 12th. It has been 10 days, right? It's been 12 days since the Series X released and 10 days since the PS5 released. How is it still this difficult to get your hands on a PS5? I'm not saying that personally. I'm saying that from what I've seen, right? The reality situation is I have friends that are still trying to get an Xbox or a PlayStation. Why? The hype factor is gone now. The pre-orders are gone. Right now you're making hard, concrete retail sales. These aren't figurative numbers anymore. These are literal numbers. It's not promising to pay something in the future. It's paying for it now. Why is there still such a limited quantity? It doesn't make sense. I'm coming in Microsoft for this too. The Series X is just as hard to grab as the PS5. PS5 has more hype surrounding it because it was impossible to get one for the longest time. And that's not a good business practice, right? Of course, they're making tons of money for it, but in terms of like building trust with your consumer, that's not good. No one should have to struggle this hard to get something. If I have the money, if I have the funds, if I have the $545 it costs, that's after shipping and all that stuff, assuming you don't pay anything extra. If I have that money in my hand, right? This is chapstick. I'm holding chapstick for those of you listening on the podcast. If I have that money in my hand and I want to buy the thing that you're selling, there's nothing that should be stopping me from doing that. Pre-orders are one thing. Pre-orders are just like, okay, let's get an idea, right? It's kind of consider like the beta. How many people are actually interested in this? You see it, good. Launch day comes, you should match that hype. Why is it so difficult to get a current gen console? We're in the current gen. Why is it so difficult to get one of those consoles? It shouldn't be. It really, truly shouldn't be. Now, that being said, hype plays too much of a factor when it comes to stuff like this. You can hype it up all you want, but if you don't deliver, then everything falls apart. So you can hype it and say that, you know, the PlayStation 5 is phenomenal, which it is. I have it. Here I am hyping it right now. I love the PS5. I'm looking at it right now. I'm standing it up on my dresser so that it takes up less space on my desk. It's huge. We're going to talk about size in a second too. Huge console. There it is. If somebody wants one of these, they should get it with no issue. I'm just reiterating my point. I'm going to move on. Let's get a little nitpicky now. The PS5, I don't like what they did with their user interface. I think it's... And that's not true. I like what they did with the user interface. I don't like how they handle the controller. Again, I'm just picking at the controller now. You remember how it used to be, right? You would hold the PlayStation button or the Xbox button down, and it would give you the option like, okay, turn off the controller, sign out, turn off your console, all that stuff. That doesn't happen anymore in PS5, which is like not good. You have to press the button once, go all the way down, like to the shortcut menu basically that pops up in the middle of the game, go all the way to the right, and hit turn off console or rest mode, enter rest mode, right? That's too much time. That's too much time. If I'm sitting on this couch back there, right? I have a big TV up here. This is what I'm using for my lighting right now. If I don't, it's a matter of comfortability, right? Being able to not have to get up and turn off consoles is a blessing. With the Xbox, it's super easy. Hold the button. When the menu shows up, go up once, hit the A button, done. Bada bing. But now it's like, okay, I'm holding the PS5, I want to be done. I hold the button, nothing happens. Okay, train myself to only press the button. Press the button, scroll. go down, right, 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 right. I can hold the button, let it go like the fast way all the way down, then hit the button, then hit enter rest mode. I'm complaining about something that makes me sound lazy, but the reality of the situation is it's designed to make you lazy. It's designed to make it easy for you. And when that process becomes difficult, it's annoying because it's not what you're used to. You are, as a person and a human being, you are supposed to make those adjustments. That being said, I can still very much complain about these things because when something is done a certain way with ease and you make it more difficult, that's not what you're supposed to do. The whole point is to make things easier, right? And nothing's changed with the Xbox, but that little thing, like just that simple thing of being done with your PlayStation needed to be just that little more difficult, right? Mind you, I can still get up, right? That, and of course, that's never going to change. You get up and hold the power button, right? Put it in rest mode, easy peasy, right? I'm at my desk right now. If I'm playing at my desk on the TV that I'm using right here, the button's right here. I can turn on my PS5, no problem. But if I'm sitting back there, it's the lack of an option. And it's a very small thing. It's not something that I should be complaining about that much. And maybe you're allowed to roast me for pointing it out. It's something that I noticed. And again, I'm just sitting here getting my thoughts out. What else? What else do I have to talk about? I had something and I lost it. You believe that? What was I just about to talk about? I don't know. Let's talk about size. That's not what I was going to talk about, but let's talk about the size of these consoles. The Series X is technically more advanced. It has more of an output and more, like, if you look at the specs, like the Xbox Series X wins. And it's smaller than the PS5. So how they fit all that stuff into a smaller packaging just in comparison and make it better is impressive. It's impressive. Let's call it working with the PC department, the computer department over at Microsoft, right? Having that insight of how to make things a little more compact when it comes to building PCs. Right? As someone who has a gaming PC that a very near and dear friend of mine built, and I'm super thankful for, it's $2,500, this baby. That's what we're using right now. Making things compact that can do like really impressive things is impressive. So why is the PS5 so big? It still baffles me. I don't get it. It's unreasonably large. I can't think of like a practical reason for it to be this big. I also don't understand why you need to have a stand. Like, this thing was so delicately crafted that you couldn't even include something for it to stand on. The Series X, even though it's basically a mini fridge, it's like flat all around, it still has, like, if you're facing it from the front, on its right side, there are there are 4 nubs so that you can lay it down instead of having it stand up. Right now, my Xbox is laying down because it has that built in. I didn't need to unscrew like a stand that came with the console and shove it into the bottom of the thing and put it down. It just like why? You couldn't have designed this thing to be a little more efficient? It's the lack of efficiency for me. It's the lack of streamlining it. Also, the looks of these consoles are hysterical. Like, the joke is that the Series X looks like a mini fridge and the PS5 looks like a router. And I own both, and it's 100% accurate. Not to take anything away from the Xbox, box being in the name makes a whole lot of sense, right? The 360, well, the 360S, not the original 360, looks like a box, right? The One looks like a box, and this one became just big rectangle. Whereas the PlayStation is just like, okay, the PS2 was kind of like a box, then the PS3 was also huge. I kind of forgot about that. The PS3 was big. I don't know, it definitely wasn't as big as the PS5, but it was still big. And I guess you can attribute that to the new technology, right? The Blu-ray was just coming out, and the PS3, Sony developed Blu-ray, so the PS3 it had like a Blu-ray player included, and that really wasn't streamlined yet. Credit where credit's due. The PS3 had an excuse. What excuse does the PS5 have? There's nothing groundbreaking about this there's nothing inherently groundbreaking about this console. because 4K still exists, right? Sure, maybe consoles haven't had it, but I'm like 80 to 90% sure that PC has had 4K for a very long time. So what's the point? Why is it so big? And how did Xbox make it make it technologically superior in a smaller package? That doesn't really make sense to me. What else? Let's talk a little bit about the console wars for just a second. I think the console wars are nonsense. As someone who was fortunate enough to break out of the console wars by owning a Switch, an Xbox One, a Series X, a PS4, and a PS5, looking back on it now, I had no idea why. I can't explain why I had such blind devotion to my 360 and my Xbox One for such a long time. So unnecessary. The reality of the situation is, these are just exclusive machines, right? I will never stop giving props to Activision and Call of Duty for making their games cross-platform. You can complain about it all you want. It's a good thing. It's a very good thing. Because it's just getting rid of the console wars are unnecessary. You don't need to blindly defend the console that you happened to get when you were a kid, or that you happened to buy because it was there, right? You're allowed to say that you prefer a console over the other, but fighting over it is ridiculous. The console wars are dead. Or at the very least, they should be. No one should be shouting from their rooftop that the PS5 is better than the Series X, or that the Series X is better than the PS5. Because it's completely subjective. There 100% is someone out there who does not care about Marvel Spider-Man for the PS4. I don't know that person. I don't know that person personally. But obviously it's kind of a stretch because it is a very good game. But maybe someone out there... I didn't play God of War until God of War 2018. I didn't play it until PS4. Again, Xbox most of my life, right? 360 I got in like middle school. If you're hearing me take a little break, it might be that I'm drinking water to keep my voice to stop cracking. Yeah, no, the console wars are just they're pointless, right? All like really what it will always boil down to is exclusivity. And if you want to go by exclusives and turn that into a console war, then sure, PlayStation's winning just because it has more in terms of like quality. But again, that's subjective. Someone who doesn't want to play a solo zombies campaign is not going to like Days Gone. That doesn't appeal to them. Me, I enjoyed it. But I also thoroughly enjoy Halo and Gears of War, like I said. I can't think off the top of my head of any other Microsoft exclusives, but I'm sure they're out there, right? The notion of a console war is dumb. Get the console that has the games that you want to play. Because here, you shouldn't be saying, I'm going to get a Series X because my friends are getting Call of Duty on it. Right? The fact that that doesn't matter anymore is phenomenal. I got it on PS5 because I wanted it on PS5. I was playing Modern Warfare on PS5. On PS4 rather, excuse me. The fact that I can now hit up friends that are not playing on the same console as me, that are not playing on a PlayStation, to get games in for Call of Duty is amazing. One time I had a couple of my friends over, some of my oldest friends, best friends, brothers basically. I have 3 screens here. One of us was playing Rocket League on Switch, another one was playing Rocket League on Xbox, and another one was playing Rocket League on PS4. And we were all on the same team. That's amazing. It should not be what separates us, it should be what brings us together. Overwatch is a good example of a game that should be cross-platform. I own Overwatch on Xbox, PS4, and Switch because I have friends who play it on each, and I want to play games with them. I want to play that game specifically with them. Can you imagine how much fun Overwatch would be if you didn't have to worry about console exclusivity? Phenomenal. It's not like the servers don't already exist, okay? The servers are there. Just, you can either tear them down and create... It's not like Blizzard doesn't have the money. That's what bothers me. People are like, oh, well, it's definitely going to cost money to do stuff like this. And of course it is. Do you think you're going to make less money? Do you think you're going to get less money by making something cross-platform? The answer is no. Because, let's say I only have Overwatch on Switch, and I have friends that have it on PS4, and I don't have a PS4. This is all hypothetical. So I wish that I could play games with them. If I buy Overwatch, or if they buy Overwatch, we can still play together? That's, first of all, that's another purchase, right? Someone who is completely out of the realm and doesn't have anything that anybody else has, if someone only has a Switch, you can make that cross-platform with other games? That's phenomenal. Fortnite is cross-platform. And of course it is, because it makes more money than anybody can fathom. Epic Games is swimming in cash. All that freemium nonsense and all this money that they make, of course, they better make that game cross-platform. That's amazing. I'm not even the biggest fan of Fortnite, but kudos to Fortnite for that. Cross-platform is phenomenal, and it's where things should be going. Because cross-platform does not take anything away from exclusivity. Overwatch on PS4 does not take anything, Overwatch on PS4 should not be considered a PS4 exclusive. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. You shouldn't be buying a PS5 to play something that you could play on Xbox. You shouldn't be buying an Xbox to play something that you could play on PS5. You should be buying the console that you want because of the games that are only available on that console. It's whatever works for you. It's subjective. And that's my point. When you make something as kind of silly as console or platform exclusive servers, you're limiting players and yourself. You can make that much money because, again, a completely hypothetical situation, but let's pretend let's not pretend that this doesn't happen, right? Those of you who are in high school right now, or college even, making friends, and you want to play games with them, so you're like, oh, do you have Xbox or PlayStation? Imagine not having to ask that question. Imagine if all you had to ask was, do you have the new Call of Duty? And they say yes, and they're like, okay, what's your Activision ID? Let me add you. You don't even need to worry about consoles when it comes to that. That's a beautiful thing, and it's where things should go, right? If you want to make, let's pretend Rocket League was an exclusive, right? Then of course Rocket League should only have dedicated service to that console. That's a given. The reality of the situation is, okay, Microsoft right now is putting games out on PC with Game Pass. I don't know if those servers are going to be, cross-platform. Like if I play Halo the Master Chief Collection on PC, am I only going to play with PC players? I shouldn't. This is Microsoft. They definitely have the money. Bill Gates I don't know if Bill Gates runs it anymore, but they're definitely making the money just from computers alone. They should be. I don't know. I'm going off the rails now and I'm ranting. The point is, I shouldn't have to do that. I should be able to hop on a game that I have on one console and play it with someone who has it on another. Maybe that's entitlement, but I don't think it is. I don't think that's that much of a stretch. And the reason I don't think that is that much of a stretch is because we already see it and it's successful. It's one thing if I'm like, oh, can you imagine if all we had to do was get a game on the console we like and we could just play together? I don't have to imagine it. I can do it right now. That's the zone we're in right now, and it's where things should be going. Fall Guys is a good example of a game that should be cross-platform, but probably doesn't have the funds to do it. It's unfortunate, because Fall Guys is a very good game, and it's a shame that it kind of fell off of hype with Among Us. Credit where credit's due, Among Us is great. I'm pretty sure Among Us is cross-platform too. That's an indie game that can handle it because they have dedicated servers that can handle whatever, right? It's not impossible. It's just difficult. And a company like this is just me going after Overwatch and Blizzard for a second. A company like Blizzard should be able to afford that. My hope is that Overwatch 2 does not have this platform exclusive server issue. What else? I think that's all I have to say. I think I got everything out. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not here to give you a preference over the other. You can listen to what I said and maybe assume something if you want, but right now I am telling you, I don't inherently prefer one console over the other yet. In terms of what I've been playing more, I have been playing the PS5 more strictly because there are games, like, because of Spider-Man Miles Morales. I wish that I got, again, I said this, I wish I got Cold War on Xbox so I didn't have to worry about the triggers as much. Because without him, it feels so different. I tried to turn them off and play Call of Duty. I needed them back. I got so used to them, but they still, like, my right index finger is like buff from having to deal with that, what do you call it? With haptic triggers. And Spider-Man is phenomenal. I'm looking forward to what else comes out for these consoles. I think it's too early to say that one's inherently better than the other. For a number, like, again, for numbers, the reasons that I've listed already, right? Like, console wars are dumb. It's a battle of exclusivity. Because if you're the type of person who only plays Call of Duty, the NBA 2K franchise, and I don't know, Assassin's Creed, and you're arguing about what console is better than the other, you should not be doing that. And this is coming from the person who, when Black Ops 3 came out, there was, you remember the Zombies Chronicles pack? It came out a month earlier on PlayStation 4. And I already had the game and the season pass on Xbox One. But I still bought the game and the pack for PS4. I went out and I got it super cheap. And I got the pack and I played, and I still play Zombies. I still play the Chronicles pack on my PS4. Now my PS5. Zombies is amazing. I love Zombies. New Call of Duty Zombies is pretty good. Cold War Zombies is pretty good. I think that's all I have to say. At this point, I feel like I'm rambling. But, yeah. Thank you for listening to me go on and on and on. I hope I was able to... I hope you enjoyed me talking. I hope... if you have something you want to say, I strongly encourage you dropping a comment, finding me on... If you're listening to the podcast, you can find me by searching up Odd Hour on YouTube, Odd Hour NYC on Twitch, whatever platform you prefer, or you can visit my link tree, which is this is the URL. It's www.linktr.ee/oddhour. You can find me on whatever thing. You can hit me up in my Discord server. Find me on social media. I encourage conversation because these things are important, right? It is important to start a dialogue because if we don't, Microsoft and Sony are just going to steamroll us. If you don't make your voice heard, even to a little guy like me, then you're not going to get what you want out of the companies that you're buying from, right? You need to make your displeasure known, because realistically, these companies are nothing without us. Okay? And the same way I will still be making content, but I won't know how to get better, and I won't know how to make you, the viewer or the listener, happy if I don't get that feedback. Right? If I'm not like you could, if you're not like you could be doing this better. Like, or just engaging with it. If you enjoy it, coming through and supporting. Right? That's what makes things flow. That's what makes things happen, right? Microsoft and Sony would be nowhere if we didn't give them our money. if they didn't have products that we want. If there's a game that you don't like, don't buy it. Right? If you don't like the new Call of Duty, sell it back. Try to get your money back. Right? Don't lose out, or sell it to somebody else so that way they don't give their money to to the company that you're displeasured with. You have a lot more power than you realize, and I think that's important. Yeah, I love you. Thank you for watching or for listening. If you enjoyed, again, please, if you enjoyed this, let me know. Give me your thoughts on the quote-unquote console wars, and just general thoughts on whether you prefer that's a good question. What do you prefer, right? Do you have both consoles? Do you have one of these consoles? Why do you like it so much? Why do you dislike it so much? What would you change? I encourage conversation. I encourage discussion. And with that being said, this is Odd Hour. This is Mukhtar signing off. And again, like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you follow the podcast, the YouTube channel. Check me out on Twitch. I stream daily. No shortage of content. I live. It fuels my soul to make content and to make you guys laugh and have a good time. And this is one of those first things where I'm having like a more serious discussion. And I enjoyed this. I'm almost definitely going to do stuff like this in the future. If you enjoyed it, please tell me. I love you. Take care. And I'll see you soon, hopefully.